This much we know for sure. We're on track to have the warmest autumn on record. Who's ready to talk winter?
Forgot what winter was.
Can we have fall first?
I think that's going to happen at the 1st of December and go through the 2nd of December. And then it's going to get cold, right, Nathan?
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
I mean, that's what the viewers want to know, how cold it's going to get, how much snow we're going to get. And I just cringe at the winter weather forecast because it's difficult. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
A lot of oscillations. Will the Arctic Oscillation, the polar vortex, make an appearance? North Atlantic Oscillation. You've got El Nino, which was last year.
Right.
We had
this year we have
La Nina.
That's right.
And that's what we're going to discuss right now. You know, as we get closer to the winter months, we're getting a lot of questions about whether or not we'll get snow this winter and how much. Well, we know one thing is for certain. As we progress into those winter months, we're going to be impacted by yet another La Nina. No stranger to Arkansas's weather patterns over the last 3 to 4 years. We had a moderate La Nina 3 consecutive years, followed up by an El Nino winter last year. So what are we expecting? Well, milder than average temperatures typically come along with a weak La Nina. Below average precipitation expected. And will it have an impact on snow possibilities? We're going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. But first, let's review what's going on when you have a La Nina. Colder than average eastern Pacific Ocean temperatures generally affect the jet stream. Same is true with an El Nino. Whenever you have an El Nino winter or a La Nina winter, those jet streams are going to get jacked up quite a bit. This is what we're expecting this year. The southern jet stream or subtropical jet takes a lift to the north, whereas the polar jet takes a bit of a dip to the south. And where you find these two jet streams coming together, you'll probably find the most inclement weather, especially when it comes to snow or rain over the northern Rockies and the northern Plain states. In fact, this is what you typically will get with a La Nina here in the U.S. Northern Hemisphere winter. Cold and snowy over the Rockies and northern plains, wet over the Ohio Valley, and then you've got dry and mild conditions over the southern tier. Now, this is looking back over 70 plus years of data, a lot of La Nina years, and this is what we come up with, dry and typically mild over the southern U.S. But let's review once again. Moderate La Nina back in 2020 and 2021 provided us with the largest La Nina snowfall that we've ever received. I know kids remember that, 2 major snows in less than a week. Now the next year, that number dropped considerably, but still stayed above average, 3.8 inches. 6 inches is what we received. And then there's 2022, 2023, yet the third in that series of moderate La Ninas did not provide much in the way of snow, only 1/10 of an inch. But that winter, we received record amounts of rain, which kind of throws out everything we've told you about La Nina being drier than average. But as a whole, La Ninas over the years have produced less precipitation and they've been milder. So we know that we've had some snow the last 3 out of 4 moderate La Ninas. Other predictors, other forecast methods, like the agricultural variety, right?
That's right. So there's a lot of people in Arkansas who think to the folklore of weather and a lot of predictions. So some people say they're tried and true. So have you heard about those?
I have. I've heard of this worm.
There's
it has a bunch
worm.
of fur on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's actually a caterpillar. Yes, we do. And we have a few other things as well. So let me tell you about those things real quick. Weather folklore lives on in Arkansas, and I grew up right here in the natural state, and these are my grandparents, my mama and papa. Now, they were older than your normal grandparents, so folklore was big to them. They didn't have modern technology to get through most of their life, so they lived upon what they knew and the history of things. But connection to the land, cultural heritage, or just practical application. You know what you know about your land and you mix that in with a little modern technology, well, you might have yourself a pretty good forecast. Now, the persimmon seeds are something that a lot of folks talk about in the fall. As we're heading into winter, you'll see all of these forecasts, people cutting up the persimmon seeds to see if they get a knife, a fork, or a spoon. Now, a knife means cold and icy, meaning you're going to have to cut the chill. Fork, mild with light snow. That's my favorite. You can have a little light snow without a big disruption. Now a spoon, heavy snow, because you're going to have to scoop that snow on up. So what is the science behind this? Sometimes it does practically go into it a little bit, but there's always a little history of the shapes, and they're likely the result of the growing of the previous years. And if you've been tracking this and you know what went with what, well, you might have yourself a pretty good persimmon forecast. So what are the results this year? A spoon. So we're going to have to ask our experts exactly how much snow we're going to get. Now also, if you have grown up in Arkansas, another folklore item here is the woolly bear. Sometimes the woolly worm is what they will call it. But this caterpillar, well, the science behind this black and orange is you're looking to see exactly how much they have there. And if they do have more black or more gold, that means you're going to have a different type of winter. Now a harsh winter is the more black, a moderate winter with a little evenly spaced fur, and the mild winter, the more brown, the more mild. Winter begins harsh and ends in the black near the head. It means it's going to be very cold. So again, we are all having a lot of fun with this folklore, but overall we do rely on the technology of things. But no matter what winter weather comes between the folklore and between our modern technology, we will all be prepared for whatever winter might bring. So talking about weather folklore is a lot of fun, and it's really part of the tradition of Arkansas. But Nathan, I know you love data. So you've been researching this a little bit. What have you found out?
I love the hard science, and when we talk about weather, it's all about the interaction between the ocean and the land. Now, with land history and the records, it goes back to the 1870s. That's not the case when we talk about what's been happening in the oceans.
All right, what you got for us?
We have 74 years of ocean data to examine when it comes to what we can expect for the winter weather season. And here's a breakdown. 25 of those years were La Nina, 22 of those years were neutral, and 27 of those years were El Nino. The latest climate models, like this one from the International Research Institute out of Columbia University, is showing the trend going to a weak La Nina phase. And we're looking at that because all these different lines are all the different climate models trying to figure out what's happening. These numbers on the side, the more positive those numbers are, the better chance there's going to be El Nino. The more negative, the better chance it's going to be a La Nina. And the letters down here, that's a 3-month period. So for example, NDJ, that's November, December, and January. This red line is the mean or average of all the climate models, and it's right in the zone of -0.5 and -1, which highlights the odds we will have not only a La Nina year, but it will be a weak La Nina season. What does that mean for us here in Arkansas? When we take a look at those 25 years, only 6 of those years were weak La Nina. And there's certainly a trend, looking at the lowest temperature observed, that we will likely have at least one night where temperatures will drop down into the low teens. As for snow lovers, it's not looking good, because out of those 6 weak La Nina years, most of them were below 1.5 inches. The outlier 7.4, that was 1964, 1965. On average, Little Rock sees about 3.8 inches of snow. But it's not only just a La Nina that can factor in on what type of winter weather season we're looking at here. It's also the Arctic Oscillation. And this is a positive phase of the Arctic Oscillation. When you have a low pressure that is right over the North Pole, it produces a strong westerly wind. That strong westerly wind keeps the Arctic air locked in place. But on occasion, that low pressure begins to weaken, and also those westerly winds become lighter. That will allow the jet stream to buckle. And as that buckling occurs, there will be spills of cold Canadian air that invade pretty much the northern tier of the country. If you want a real cold blast, we need the AO to become strongly negative. That's when the jet stream really takes a dive all the way down to the deep south. And when you have a strong negative AO and a southern storm track, our winter weather scenario sets up across Arkansas with snow and ice. Usually though, a La Nina season produces a storm track that is farther to the north. That means the winter weather opportunities retreat to the north as well, into Missouri, into the Ohio Valley. And here in Arkansas, we'll have to watch out for not only winter weather, but also, of course, severe weather. And La Ninas are more known to produce a higher chance of severe weather here in the Mid-South during those years. I'm all for winter weather, but we cannot let our guard down because we do have some nasty, severe weather during the winter season.
I tell you, when I think of La Nina and some of the moderate to strong La Ninas, we sometimes get severe weather. I know that Simone has been taking a deeper dive into the severe weather aspects here in Arkansas and other places.
Yeah, and I mean, this year we are expecting the weak La Nina, but that doesn't mean we should let our guard down. Severe weather can come in the spring just as it can in the winter. And here's some of the data we've been keeping a look at. Well, since the 1950s, Arkansas has experienced 6 weak La Nina events during the winter months. And during these periods, the number of tornadoes we see can vary. Most commonly, we see anywhere from 20 to 25, but there have been some outlier events. The bottom line is the winter months can be just as active as the spring months when it comes to severe weather and tornadoes. So that means this is a great time to make sure you're refreshed on the difference between a watch and a warning. Now, watches are usually issued for multiple counties or regions in the state. This is your first heads up to say, hey, the ingredients are in place for severe weather. Make sure you have a plan in case conditions start to deteriorate. When a watch is issued, you may or may not physically be impacted by severe weather, but this is a safeguard to make sure you have a plan in place. Now, warnings are usually going to be more specific to your location. That'll include 1 to maybe even 2 counties, and this is saying, hey, severe weather is either happening in your location or it's on the way to your location. Take action and get to safety. Now, if you are under a tornado warning, here are some options on how to get to safety. The best option is going to be a storm shelter. Most modern homes don't have a built-in storm shelter, but some communities do offer public storm shelters. If you would rather stay home, the other options are going to be an interior closet, interior bathroom, or hallway or pantry. You want to make sure you're putting as many walls between you and the outside world as you can. Now, some of those worst options are staying in a mobile home. If you or a loved one stays in a mobile home, you can either explore the option of those public community shelters or bring that friend to your home where it might be safer to take action during those severe weather events. You also want to avoid any upper floors. Ideally, you want to stick to the ground level and put those walls between you and the outside world. You want to avoid rooms with windows and rooms with exterior walls because they're going to be more vulnerable. Now, we want to make sure you're prepared for those severe weather, so another great resource to have is that THV11 mobile app. If a warning is issued, you'll get those alerts right to your cell phone.
All right, so we've got La Nina, we've got some of our favorite folklore forecasts. We've talked about the possibility of severe weather. We haven't talked about snow, and instead of the 4 of us providing our snow forecast this year, we have some special guests to help us out.
Hey, Tom. How you doing? So you're pulling the retired weatherman out of retirement to talk about the weather? Huh, okay. So you want to know how much snow we're going to get. Here's what I'm thinking. Between an El Nino and a La Nina, and you know what that means, whatever Nino we get, I think it's going to be a warmer and wetter winter than normal. That said, I'm going with a total snowfall for the winter in central Arkansas of 6 inches. Take that and enjoy. I'm hoping for 6 feet, but I'm thinking less snow this year than normal.
From the excitement of the threat of a few flurries at the beginning of winter to being stuck in a foot of snow on I-630, I really hate forecasting winter in Arkansas, and I always did. Only because all it takes is 1 degree to make the difference. If it's 33 degrees, it's going to rain. 32, it could be rain or ice. 31, it could be ice or snow. And 30 or lower, it could be ice, snow, or mixed rain and ice and snow. You never knew what was going to hit us. So, you know what? As long as it doesn't interfere with my bingo plans, I don't care what it's going to do. But really, as winter season approaches, folks, make sure you take plenty of time to drive the extra drive because it's going to take a little longer. Be safe out there and use some common sense.
Well, for many of you out there that remember my days on the air here in Arkansas, for many of you, you will know that I am not a fan of winter weather. I am not a fan of winter weather. I am not a fan of winter. But a lot of people think we're due for a big storm, snowstorm. I don't think we are. The last couple of years, last year we had like 3 inches of snow. The year before that we had 3 inches of snow. And 2.5 years ago, we had 20 inches of snow that fell in a back-to-back snowstorm in less than 4 days. 20 inches. So I don't think we're due at all. So what I'm going to do is not forecast, I'm going to wishcast. And I am saying nothing this year. That's the way I want it. Snowstorms and ice storms are debilitating. People think that they love the winter weather, but they're devastating, they're debilitating. You can't do anything. Everyone thinks they love it. Really, I guess only the kids love it, but that's okay. If we get some, we get some, but I'm wishcasting no snow this year.